Deus Ex Mankind Divided is like taking a fine champagne and spiking it with wild Irish rose and drinking it out of a slurpee cup. Sure, it'll last longer, but the experience is kinda ruined. This is the 4th game in a series of games that has a sort of heartbeat-like success rating. OG Deus Ex was a high point, Invisible War flatline, Human Revolutions, signs of life. All in all, Mankind Divided holds the line steady, so the patience still has life in them. But with a 5-year dev cycle, you would think that they would have taken more time to improve some of the things that people complained about in the last game. When Mankind Divided was released, it was met with middling reviews, a 7 out of 10 on Steam and 83% on Metacritic. Compared to its little brother, Human Revolution, which still sits at a 95% on Metacritic, this seems to be a step down in quality. The original Deus Ex dealt with some heady and sometimes outrageous conspiracies that look tame today because, well, most of them actually came true. Nanotech is getting increasingly more likely as we already possess the tech to print circuits at the cellular level. Gene editing, a pandemic with a limited supply of vaccines, like wow, Warren Spector? But Mankind Divided had a long production period, especially for a sequel. What the dev team cited being the culprit was all the new technology they added into their engine, and it really shows. There's a sort of gloss to Mankind Divided that, for me, just wasn't present in Human Revolution. What with the overall muddy feel and the brown filters.
We're asked to develop a 36 months game in a 15-month period with 3 times the staff level of 200 people. And people don't like to work in those conditions. And IDOS Montreal really wanted to find a way to, a new approach, a human approach to develop good games.
Oh, that's nice.
I'm sure that the devs were being diplomatic because this game reeks of having to be cut short due to time limitations because in a lot of ways, the story feels incomplete and a bit rushed, but not in the way you might think. So, let's dig in, shall we? So the way that character building works in this game is that you start off with like a ton of shit. Like in the first opening mission, you get a ton of shit. It's kind of like how Metroid was, you know, where you go through the beginning of the game and then you get all your shit taken from you. You know, it's a way that they can set you back to zero essentially and justify it in the game world, you know, because you started at 0 back in Human Revolution, but now you're at 0 again. And it happens because your systems took a major hit. And this guy, Volker, who looks like he's straight out of a Minor Threat video, this dude almost melts you completely because he's in there fucking around with your augmentations and he finds a bunch of new ones.
Take it easy. I swear I didn't mean to. Your retinal display should be back soon. You can still move, right?
And the system that comes with this game is kind of cool. It's like you have to decide ahead of time like what kind of character you're going to be. And the tutorial level really sets you up so that you can understand how all of these systems work really effectively because it gives you time to sort of experiment and decide on what your playstyle is going to be ahead of time so that you're not making decisions blindly. You know the kind of things that you're going to need and therefore it gives you access to those things up front so you can play with them and know how they're going to work when you do actually use them. And the other thing that the character building does really well is that it doesn't just tell you what bonuses you're going to get, right? It actually shows you, and it's really cool how they do it. They have a little video player down in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen that shows you basically everything that the thing is going to do so you make an informed decision before you actually purchase something. So for instance, like the greatest example of this is the biocell recharge. When you start out, the biocell doesn't recharge very quickly, right? But the more praxis points you put into it, the faster it recharges. But if it tells you that it recharges like 2 seconds faster, it's like, well, what the fuck does that mean? But it actually shows you in the little video how quickly it recharges. Like a lot of games would just show you, now, this is the recharge that we're talking about, but this one actually shows you each level how quickly it's going to recharge. So you can know at level 3, oh, this is going to recharge really fucking fast. And you also got to fuck with it in a tutorial mission, which face it, that is actually what this whole mission was just a big tutorial section that is teaching you about all these various systems by giving you access to them up front and letting you play with them so that when you actually buy them, you know what you're doing. It's super good. I mean, this whole opening is fucking fantastic. It's such eye candy in the beginning. Like when you're seeing everybody on the helicopter and they're all getting ready and they're putting on their shit. Adam's having his little edgelord conversation with the dude across from him with the big face scar. It's super good. It sets up the stakes right away, and it puts you into a situation, like I said, that allows you to use all of your skills right up front. And what the effect of that is that you as the player basically know by the time you get out of there, before you're reset to 0, you already know what kind of character you're going to want to play as. It's fucking brilliant. I love it. And the various upgrades don't just act as upgrades. Like, they actually change gameplay very significantly. You know, like in a lot of RPGs, what you get is a system where, oh, you know, if you get better at guns, you do more damage. If you do better at melee, you do more damage. You know, like some numbers go up and then some numbers go down. You know what I mean? It's not very in-depth usually, but with this, it literally changes not only the difficulty of the game, which I'll go into in a minute, but it also changes how you play the game and how the game feels to you, like the tactileness of the game. It's like, I guess the best example I can come up with a game that actually did this is Gothic again. I don't know why Gothic's been on my mind so much lately. But, like, basically what I mean here is, you know, when you start off on Gothic, you know, you start off at this very low level where you can swing the sword back and forth and forward, and that's it. But then as you upgrade it, you start to reach certain tiers where, oh, now I could do combos. And I can keep moving forward, and oh, now I can block, and I can parry, and I can do all kinds of other shit. And it's like, that changes how the game feels, right? It changes how good your character is in a very tactile way. It's like, yeah, sure, you're gonna be stealth, but what flavor of stealth are you gonna be? Are you gonna be a weapons stealth kind of guy? Are you gonna be killing dudes? Or are you just gonna be shocking them with a little, you know, little taser gun? Are you gonna be tranking them for really far away? Or are you going to be the type of guy who uses his augments to silence people? Maybe the Tesla, you know, maybe you're going to shoot a little Tesla darts out. Well, maybe you're going to come up behind people and punch them. Maybe you're going to rely heavily on your radar. It's like, what flavor of stealth are you going to do? What flavor of badass are you going to be? It changes how you approach different scenarios, and it allows you to kind of plan for other contingencies, right? So, oh, you know, if I have to fight a big armored guy, I'm going to go this route. But it gives you like a whole tool set, and it says, what tools do you want? And then the level design facilitates the type of gameplay that you're going to use. It's like this really great synergy between the powers that you get access to and the design of the levels being designed in a way to facilitate that type of play. And then the difficulty is another thing, because there's certain perks in there which, like, for example, the radar system. Like, if you went the entire game without the radar system, that's like playing hard mode, right? If you're trying to do stealth. Because the radar just makes things so much easier to do. Especially stealth. It just makes things so much easier because you could predict how people are going to be walking around in a level and what their cone of vision is, how loud your footsteps are, just about everything. And then stack on top of that the fact that you can go invisible, and not even just go invisible, make it so you can go invisible for longer periods of time. It's like cheats almost. That's what it feels like. It feels like you're cheating at the game when you get certain powers. And that's a super empowering feeling as a player. And the way you level up is that you don't level up in a traditional way, right? So you've got an experience bar and all that stuff, and yes, you do level up through that, but you don't really gain anything passively. What happens is that you get a praxis point, and the praxis points are basically a way for you to buy augments so that you could become better. So like if you wanted more biocell energy, you could use a praxis point to get that, right? But you only get one per level. The rest of them you get either through exploration or through quest rewards, right? So it encourages you to do as many quests as you can, to do all the side quests, to do all the exploration that you can, because you'll occasionally get rewarded with a free level. And because the levels don't come in such an abundance that you're going to be absolutely flushed with praxis points, it makes them a very valuable resource, right? So that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about with a lot of these games where, you know, you get the level 50 and shit, and it's just like, oh yeah, I got the level 50, cool, right? It's like, You know what I mean? It's just like a bunch of passive upgrades, and yeah, you become slightly better, and everything levels with you anyway, so who the hell cares? It's like, this game avoids all of that by using a point buy system, essentially, and making the points so rare that when you do get one, you're like, all right, man, fucking A, dude. And because certain abilities cost more than one praxis point, just because you gain a level doesn't mean you're going to be able to get the thing that you want. Sometimes you got to save up to get them, right? So progressing through and getting more powerful actually takes a good amount of time. So when you do finally get that final upgrade that you were really looking forward to, it feels that much better, right? It feels earned. Instead of doing what a lot of other games do, which is to reward you for keeping a body temperature roughly of 98.5 degrees and playing the game for a half hour. Hey, good for you, yay! Yay, you played the game for a half hour. Here's a free level. Enjoy. Here's some fireworks and ding! Nice little sound. You leveled up. Woo, good for you. Here's a loot box. Explosion of items. Oh, they're everywhere. All over my face, all over my chest. All right, let's talk about disposing of evidence. Now, this is one of my favorite topics in these kind of games because there's two different ways that it seems that games tend to do this stuff now. The way that I like is by actually picking up the body that you just knocked out and walking away with it. Like, I don't care how realistic it is for that. I care that it's easier to use and more reliable. See, in Thief, you never really had to worry, you know what I mean? Like, picking up a body just always worked, and it was smooth, and you didn't have to hold down any key, and you didn't have the kind of fidgetiness that you have with these newer Deus Ex games. I feel like they're trying to show off their fancy ragdoll mechanics, but it doesn't work for two different reasons. The first and most important is gameplay, obviously, because gameplay is the most important thing about these games. Is the gameplay good? If yes, you know, go to line 10, you know what I mean? But if it's not, then fucking figure it out. Like, what I dislike about this is that you have to point to the body, and you have to be within a certain distance of the body, and then you hold the E key, or whatever your interact key is, and then within a certain time period, it'll latch onto the body, and then you can drag it, right? The thing is that it's not very informative. Like, you really have to keep your eye on whether or not the body has moved in order to know if you're holding on to it. And you never know when Jensen's just gonna, like, let the fucking body slip out of his hands. You know, Mr. Butterfingers can't seem to hold on to shit. It's like the simple act of carrying this body from this location to this location, and then having the body get hung up on geometry that's all around you, ends up meaning that you're gonna get caught doing the thing that you don't wanna get caught doing. You know? That's like the whole point, is to not get caught. That's why you're dragging a fucking body somewhere. Now, you do have the ability to throw the body, but you never know as a player when you're doing this whether or not somebody's going to hear you throwing that body across the fucking room, you know? So it's not very reliable in that sense, that the player can't have faith that what they're doing is actually going to work. So like if you're doing a passive playthrough, which is most likely the case if you're walking around knocking people out and trying to hide the bodies, like if you're doing a passive playthrough, the first thing that's going to come to your mind is not, let me throw this body 100 fucking yards at 25 miles per hour into a fucking wall. You know what I mean? Like, that's probably going to kill the guy in your head, right? So maybe you experiment with it, maybe you find out differently, but as a player, in the moment, you're thinking, well, I don't want to ruin my fucking playthrough by throwing this guy into a wall. Let me just drag him, and then that's going to get you caught. See, it's one of the ways that the game makes you doubt yourself and doubt the game. You know, it makes you doubt whether or not the outcome that you're expecting to come out is going to come out that way. That's the first problem I have with it. Because you never know if the body's going to get hung up on something or the system's just going to lose its fucking mind. Like, look at this clip right here. See, I'm trying to drag this guy over this little ledge right here. And I should be able to do that pretty easily. But every time I try, Jensen lets his fucking feet slip out of his hand. And by the time I actually get the body over to me, somebody's already seen the unconscious guy and is now coming to investigate. And I get caught every fucking time. in a way, this shitty mechanic right here, which is like a really big part of the game, hiding bodies, if you're doing stealth, it's a super big part of the fucking game. And it's definitely not one that you want to be finicky and unresponsive. This one mechanic makes you have to play the game completely different than you would actually play it if the system worked reliably. And that's why I say the system's kind of shitty, because it doesn't work reliably. Reliability in a system's super important to whether or not it's good or bad, especially when that system determines whether or not you succeed or fail, essentially, or whether or not you have to restart. Like, another way to put it is that if your player doesn't feel like, oh, I can drag this body reliably, then they're not going to do that. They're going to find opportunities to not have to drag bodies at all, which means that I ended up just shooting everybody with a long-range tranq rifle, because what was the point of doing anything else? I'm just going to get fucking caught. And I feel like I need to explain that a little bit, because like I have a very particular playstyle when it comes to these kinds of games, right? Because I grew up with Thief, right? So like I came through some of my more formative years as a gamer playing games like Thief and playing games like Deus Ex, right? And each of these games, at least in the beginning, especially with the original Deus Ex, you were kind of short range, right? Because the tranq gun wasn't as reliable as, say, the stun prod. You tended to err on the side of safety and go with the thing that you knew was going to work, right? And in Thief, you knocked everybody out close range, melee range. And I always have a propensity to go for melee type of characters all the time. And that's just my playstyle. I like to get up close and personal with somebody, knock them out, hide their body, and just go systematically through the room, knocking everybody out. But if the mechanic that I use to facilitate that gameplay is unreliable, then I'm not going to do it, because it's just going to create more frustration than it's going to create elation. And the other thing I think I never really liked very much about Deus Ex, the new ones at least, is the cutscenes. I fucking can't stand these cutscenes that play every time I knock somebody out. See, it takes the control away from you, which I hate. I mean, you guys have seen my videos. You know how I talk about this all the time. I hate it when a game takes control away from me. There's nothing in particular that's wrong with it. Like, all of the game world around you pauses while that cutscene plays and you knock the guy out. But the thing is that I'm not the one knocking the guy out. I initiated an action and the game is doing it for me. I fucking can't stand that. I can't stand that because, number one, like I said, it takes control away from you, but it's also disorienting, right? Because the camera angle fucking changes. You see this cinematic shot of you hitting a guy and then headbutting him, and then all of a sudden you're back in your body searching around frantically for the guy you just knocked out so that you could drag him to another location. I fucking hate this shit. The other thing that kind of pisses me off about this is that Jensen, in order to use his fists, has to use up all of his fucking bio energy in order to do it. It's as if he can't punch somebody without being drained. Like, that seems like a really inefficient system. It's like, I can't get into a fist fight with somebody without having to, like, completely drain myself of energy. Like, I can only hit somebody once, and then, oh, I don't have any energy left, I gotta go take a biocell. So then, like, what's the point of these fucking augmentations then? Because they seem like they're, like, more hassle than they're worth. I mean, why would you cut off your fucking arms and replace them with augmentations? You know what I'm saying? Like, it seems like a really inefficient way of doing things. It's like, oh, I gotta pick up this box. Better take a biocell. You know what I mean? It's like, I thought the whole point of these augments was to make our lives easier, right? And to make us better than your average human. It's like, okay, just because you can lift 500 pounds without breaking a sweat and like bench it 20 times, you know, doesn't mean it's better if you have to like take a fucking biocell every rep. You know what I mean? It's like you can't punch one guy without completely draining your cells. And it's like when you have a full bar, I think the max that you can get out of that is like 3. So you could punch people 3 times, then you have to sit and wait for your cells to recharge. And I can't tell you how many times I got fucked over by that and then quickly switched over to my gun and knocked somebody out with that because I was trying to take out 2 people at the same time. It's like, fuck! And like the worst part of all of this is that it doesn't make any logical sense. Like, who's out there saying, wow, I want to cut my arms off and get one of these, man? It's like, are you that lazy that you can't like just go to the gym? You know what I mean? You're gonna cut your fucking arms off so that you can bench more shit and like buy fucking $8,000 worth of biocells so that you can like, you know, impress people with your ability to pick up your car with one arm. I mean, it just doesn't make any logical sense. Like, these things are supposed to make your life better, but they're such a fucking hassle. It's like in the first game, the cybernetic implants, your body rejects them. So you have to get neuropazine, which is super fucking expensive, in order for your body not to kill you trying to get rid of the foreign material in your body, right? And then on top of that, you gotta buy all these biocells just to keep fucking upright. You know what I mean? It's like, who would willingly subject themselves to that sort of torture? It's like, I can understand if he was using some kind of electric stun prod or something, right? And it drew from his energy. I could totally understand that. But it doesn't cost you bioenergy to pick shit up and throw it across the fucking room. It doesn't cost you bioenergy to drag a guy and throw him across the room. But in order to throw a fucking punch, that costs energy? And not just some energy, like a quarter of your fucking energy. It makes it so that you have to like worry about a thing that you shouldn't have to worry about. Like, I'm taking this guy down and I could just like, you know, punch him in the fucking face. Cause like, if I could throw a big heavy metal fucking box 200 fucking yards in the air, like if I could do that, then one of my punches is gonna shatter this fucking dude's brain. You know what I mean? And if I'm hitting him so hard that it costs me energy to do it, wouldn't that just kill the fucking guy? I mean, wouldn't it just like completely blow this fucking dude's brain up? I mean, it's like, I'm trying to be non-lethal, but I mean, if you really think about it, I must be hitting this dude so hard that he's having flashbacks to when he was a fucking baby in his mother's womb. So it's just kind of dumb. I really don't like that system. It's like, I understand why they did it, but I don't understand why they thought it was a good system and that it should be used to prevent you from being able to knock people out in melee range. It's like, if the player is going through the effort to get that close to the enemy to knock them out and putting themselves in that kind of harm's way and that kind of danger, especially when these guys can like turn around on a dime while they're walking, like that happens a lot. If you're taking the risk to do that, then the game should be rewarding you for that risk, not penalizing you. Goddamn. I mean, you have a stun gun and you basically get enough ammo to run through the whole entire fucking level, short range, shooting people in the back. And the only way that's controlled is that, oh, you know, you might not have enough ammo to do the whole thing if you miss a bunch of times. Okay. But like, how can you miss at that close a range? So, like I said, I just don't like that at all. But let me get back to dragging the bodies. Sorry for the tangent, you know, I kind of serpentine my way through these videos. You could have just switched this whole thing to just me picking up the body and putting it on my shoulder. And this is why, because if Jensen was just, you know, like normal fucking Joe six-pack, I could understand this, right? I could totally understand him not being able to pick up, you know, a 200-pound, muscle-bound fucking dude with, you know, augmentations. I totally get that. But that's not what Jensen is. He's a fucking modified to, from the neck down, he is all mechanical. This dude can pick up a fucking truck. He's not weak. And even, he can grab these bodies and throw them across the fucking room like a football. I mean, seriously, he can throw these guys like 30 fucking yards. Like, it's insane. So why can't he just pick him up and put him on his fucking shoulder? God damn it. Like, this system right here is, I think, one of the main reasons that I get so tired of these Deus Ex games at a certain point. Because, like, I'll be sitting there playing, and oh my god, I'm doing so good, my stealth is great, I'm hiding bodies. And then I'll get to a point like this one, where, oh my god, you know, no matter what I do, I cannot get these bodies hidden in time for the guys to not see them and fuck up my stealth, and then have to go all Rambo on everybody. It's fucking ridiculous. Like, it's such an easy problem to fix, but I feel like I said, that they just wanted to show off how fancy their fucking ragdolls are, and it's not necessary or needed. There's a couple of areas where this game just face plants on in the gameplay department, and it only becomes obvious the more you play it because, to be honest, the game is very good for the first few hours, but then something just seems to happen to the polish in the level design department, which shines a big, bright fucking light on the deficiencies in the traversal systems. For instance, jumping is a pain in the ass, especially in tight places, like this place, for example. See how this area kind of gives you the illusion that you can jump up onto this pipe over here, then you can jump perhaps over to the other ledge? This gives you the illusion that if you do that, it'll probably lead you to a grate or some other shortcut through the poison cloud, you know, just in case you didn't take the augmentation. Well, this is an oversight, because not only is jumping over here spotty at best, because Jensen can't do horizontal leaps, if he hits a ceiling, you're going down, my dude. And that might be okay. You might think, that's not a problem. A lot of games do that, fine. But jumping onto an object will make you latch onto it and pull yourself up. Sometimes. Other times you're trying to climb over a box before a patrol spots you, and you try 3 times before the shit actually works. Like I said before in my rant about the drag mechanic, getting spotted because the game had a stroke does not equal out to a reliable system. And once the player loses faith in a system, they tend to not use it as much. And if they can, avoid it completely. Shooting, on the other hand, is super smooth. It feels like an action game more than the OG Deus Ex, which is okay, I guess. I mean, it feels good to shoot most of the time, but the tranq rifle can eat a bag of dicks. You know how in most games a rifle that only shoots 1 bullet will auto-take you out of ADS and back to normal aim while your character cocks the bullet? This game doesn't do that shit. It needs you to remember to exit ADS before it cocks the hammer, and you know what? I fucking hate that. I can't tell you how many times it happened to me that I miss a shot, try to line up another one, only to hit the button frantically while an NPC spots me from half the fucking map over. The stealth, on the other hand, is also pretty tight. Again, most of the time. There are times, however, when I'm coming around a corner to knock someone out and they see me, and before they can say anything, I knock them out. And you would think that that would cause them to not be able to alert anybody, but because the enemy are all fucking a hive mind, they all come swarming at me. But what I can say about the AI is that it's pretty damn good as far as how they react to you. Like, when Jensen is caught sneaking around, but then breaks line of sight with the enemy for a certain period of time, a ghostly outline appears wherever the enemy last saw him, and then they'll begin a search routine. Then there's times when the AI is R-worded squared, and even though they know you're in that vent, they just stand there shooting into it, even though the angle of their bullets could never find their target. I guess they're hoping for ricochets. Also, they don't know how to look under desks. So, you know, if you're scared, just hide under a desk with your stun gun out. But normally I say, the enemy is pretty good about spotting you where you shouldn't be. So you might be a little frustrated by the enemy always spotting you. So if this is the case, then have I got a tactic for you. Invest in 3 augmentations at the start of the game. Glass Shield Cloaking and Seraph Series 8 Energy Converter. See, I made a huge mistake in my playthrough, and I tried to enjoy the stealth in this game, and by the 15th time I got caught because I was dragging a body, or the jump fucked up, or the rifle locked up on me, or somebody saw me before I can knock them out, I decided to go this route. And by the time I got to the end of the game, I was doing perfect stealth runs of it, because the simple fact is, the 2 augmentations combined make the entire game a joke. And if you invest in biocells and hoard these things, you can go through entire levels having never been seen. I mean, it's not a very satisfying way to play, but it does make the game the most trivial experience I've ever played. So, do that if you want to get through the game as quickly as possible. But if you want a challenge, perfect stealth is where it's at. Perfect stealth requires you to be patient, while a ghost run requires an intimate knowledge of the layout of the level. The footage you're watching is of my first attempt at ghost running a level. The Rizika Station mission was one that I had previously had a bad run at, and Miller chewed my ass out for that. I guess some guy must have died or something, I don't know. But this time around I was prepared and knew the level inside and out. Not only does this type of design test your patience, but it makes you, at times, force quick decisions you might not normally make, and goddamn does it feel good when you pull it off, especially in one run, when you don't have mirror cloaking to fall back on. And the fact that this level accommodated perfectly to my whims and allowed me to perfect stealth it is a testament to how well these levels are designed. As I've mentioned before, not only is there plenty of cover to hide, but the patrol routes are also timed with precision. And there doesn't appear to be much randomness in the routes either, aside from when a guard turns to look down some blind spots. It also has that thief feeling. So let me try to explain this. Like, when you're hiding from one guard and you're stuck in a position, right, where if you move from here right now, you're going to be seen. So you're sitting there and you're waiting to see if this guard decides to go where you think he's going to go. And if he doesn't go where you think he's going to go, you're fucked, right? So you know that feeling where you're passively staring at the screen, waiting for someone to turn around, but instead they start getting closer and closer to you, and you feel your eyes widen. I was super impressed by this, and the stealth is so good that even on my weapons run through, even though I had access to armor that grants me invulnerability, I still, just like in my last playthrough, chose to do stealth whenever I could because it feels that damn good to do it. The issue is, if you're going for the Foxiest of Hounds achievement, which is a nice name by the way, there are a few things that might be working against you in this regard. See, there's a bug that will fuck up your ghost rating when you drag a body after loading a save. Or something like that. I can't remember what it is exactly. So, if you're going for that achievement, you have to be careful. I'm not sure if this voids the achievement, but it will mess up your ghost rating in some of the levels. I did manage on my first playthrough, though, to get a pacifist achievement, so I don't know, man. It's weird. Like, Miller chewed me out for killing, but I think he was actually just chewing me out because I left a bunch of people unconscious in the level. So, not exactly a ghost. So, the audio in this game is a bit of a mixed bag. There's nothing that really, like, kind of stands out. I would say that the strongest tool that this game has in its audio bag is the music. The music is very rhythmic in a kind of ticking clock kind of way. It's a technique that I know a lot of musicians use. In fact, the musician that's working on my game did a pretty similar kind of thing, and it always gets me going because, like, I don't know if you know about, like, drums and rhythm and things like that. I'll tell you a little something about rhythm, right? This is what I know. When you're in rhythm with other musicians, your heart rate will pick up to syncopate with whatever rhythm you're doing. And you start fucking up the moment you have to elevate your heart rate beyond a certain point because then you become out of rhythm with the music, right? So that's why drummers are in such good shape because they have to be able to keep their heart rate down while keeping pace with this, you know, crazy fucking song. Like, I don't know how the fuck double bass pedal people get this shit done. Now, this is complete conjecture. I've heard drummers talk about this kind of thing, but I can't confirm it. I mean, of course, drummers in the fucking comments, you tell me, is it like that? But like, when you've got this kind of dun 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 dun, you know, it sort of picks up, but ever so slightly, and it kind of hangs out in the background, either going faster or slower, and it just sort of accentuates any feelings of maybe tension or mystery that you're feeling. Like, take the track for when you go to the underground base, what is it, TF-29 or whatever the hell it is. Take that track, for example. It's absolutely perfect. So you go down into this base and you're taking this long ass elevator down that's in the back of this store, right? And you're going down and you can hear it ding, 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 right? You can hear the thing going and it's going and going and going. And then as you get down into the elevator and open up the doors and there's all this commotion, people are running everywhere, talking to each other, and all of the voice acting, all of it. I haven't seen bad voice acting yet, but all of it almost without exception is superb. Well, maybe not superb, good, passable, right? There isn't a bad performance in the game yet. The ones with the main characters are fucking superb. They are so good. Like, this conversation with MacLeod is fantastic. It's not just the way he delivers the lines, but it's also the writing of the lines.
Christ, I know I'm good, Jensen, but I've only been on it for 5 minutes.
But let me circle back. I did the serpentine thing again. Let me circle back to the music, right? So you're going through this place and you're discovering little mysteries here and there. Maybe you stop over to Chang and you talk to him, and he goes on and on about like the base is going to be discovered and whatnot. And Chang says this thing that I swear to God is so perfect, right, for his character, because he's an IT guy. And he's got to be a pretty damn good IT guy to be working for these people. I mean, let's face it, not anybody just gets this fucking job. You know, you can't just walk in off the street and get this shit, right? So this dude really knows what the fuck he's doing. You know, he does security for a living, right? So when he says,
if someone points a gun at me, I assume it's loaded. If someone hacks into the website of the company that serves as our cover, I assume they're doing it for a bad reason.
You know that that's a serious thing, but if you've not been in IT, then maybe you don't know. I have a story actually about this. I'm going to tell you this story. I was really young. I think I was about 24 years old, and I was working for this company that put out a magazine about lawyers. And the funny thing about that is not that there's like a market for a magazine about lawyers. You might be saying to yourself, lawyers, I'd like to read about lawyers. I think they're fascinating people. First of all, that's not fucking true. Second of all, you must be a lawyer, because a lawyer is the only other person that is possibly interested in other lawyers. I do not think of lawyers on a daily basis. I think of doctors on a daily basis. I didn't used to, but now I think about doctors all the fucking time. Lawyers, on the other hand, never even enter into my fucking thoughts. In fact, they're probably the one group of people that I never want to fucking think about. That's not the funny thing, obviously, because that joke wasn't funny. The funny thing is that these lawyers didn't appear in this magazine out of merit. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't go state to state searching for fucking lawyers who just like, who are so awesome that they had to be thrust into the public spotlight and go, look at this guy. He's amazing at being a lawyer. It wasn't anything like that. You paid to be in the magazine, and then somebody would take your money and pay another person to write up an article about how awesome you are. And I mean, face it, that's a hard-ass job, man. How are you going to write 500 words about a lawyer? And then they would pay some other dude a bunch of money to go to their office, right, the lawyer's office, and take some photos of the guy, some glamour shots. You got 6 lawyers and 1 female lawyer in like a tight white button-up shirt sitting seductively on a table while 5 lawyers surround them like they're gonna reenact that scene from Requiem for a Dream. And like the whole time, I'm just like working there, I'm thinking and looking through these magazines and everything, and I'm looking at these pictures that these people take, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, goddamn, they had a meeting before they took this picture, and they were all like, okay, we need 5 ideas, man. 5 ideas, 5 killer ideas of what we're gonna do in this picture, okay? 5 ideas, go, pitch them to me. You know what I mean? They're just sitting around a table and they're getting super amped up. They're just like, oh my God, this is going to be fucking amazing, right? We're going to look so cool. Those guys down in Lehman and Greenberg, they're going to be fucking dying when they see this shit. They'd put it together in a sleek magazine and they would put this shit out. That's not the important part. I just thought it was fucking funny. And they had this really old ass Linux server that hosted the website, right? And unfortunately, I didn't know a goddamn thing about Linux, right? And I had been there for about like 6 months. And I remember I came into work one day, checked out the website that we hosted with all the lawyers and everything. And on the front of it, on the very front page, was just a picture of the Linux penguin saying, you've been hacked by whatever Hacksaw Team 39. And I freak the fuck out, right? Like the only thing I could think about was having to stand in the unemployment line. Because when he says, when somebody points a loaded gun at your head, you gotta expect they're gonna do something, right? To me, I'm not hearing, oh, we got to protect these people because, they're going to come here and bomb this place next. No, what I'm hearing is, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. Oh my God, what do I do? Oh shit, I just signed a year lease and I just bought a new car, man. I can't lose my fucking job, man. You got to help me. And maybe you accept that mission. That's great. You accept the mission and you move on with your life and you keep going through the place. And then maybe you follow some woman who's running around from one computer to the next, or you stop over at someone's desk and you hear their conversation. And their conversation is actually good. Like, you walk away from that like, oh boy, I really wonder what the hell she's dealing with right now, right? And then you find a little board with all kinds of things written on it and people's pictures and everything, and there's little lines connecting them, you know, like a vision board, like something you might use in a homicide case, right? And they're connecting people who is involved with this and who is involved with that, and then you're asking a guy and he's telling you who these people are. It's like getting a legitimate brief. And all of it is done with such crisp audio. It's so crisp. There are times, however, when the audio mixing just completely shits the bed. I mean, makes a complete mess of things. Just a shotgun blast of shit all the way up the mattress.
Hacker activists or hackers dedicated to the...
Unfortunately, when you're talking to someone, all of the background conversations continue. And sure, it adds a lot to the ambiance of the scene, but I can't understand what the fuck this guy's saying. And he might be saying something important, and it might be the only time I get to hear it. Just, can you do me a favor, games? When I'm in a conversation with somebody, lower the background noise. You don't have to get rid of it completely, just lower it. Lower it, man. Like 15 decibels, okay? That's perfect. 15 decibels, then I can hear the guy who's in front of me and still hear all the other shit going on in the background. Huh? Please. Jesus Christ. Graphically, the game is wonderful. The lighting is ultra smooth and the edges of shadows have a smooth gradient to them. The levels have a great amount of charm to them as well, and they're populated by finely detailed models. Like even the boxes, which are normally like ho-hum, have all these little details like packing tape with content warnings modeled across their surfaces, or like in Dubai, where places that you'll never go are given a level of care and love that you don't normally see in games of this type. And all this love serves to flesh out an area that once you enter, you'll never see again. Although, cracks do begin to show in places like this, like for instance, throwing a box down into the water doesn't create a splash. Is that a big deal? No, I guess not, you know. The level design is appropriately detailed and provides plenty of places for cover. Places that are meant to be dirty and messy are appropriately dirty and messy, while places that are clean have a similar level of cleanliness. Though I can't really remember too many places that look like that. In fact, I mean, aside from the upper class area homes, everyone in this game is a fucking slob, and not just a basic type slob either, like a hoarder's level slob, like cat shit wrapped in a newspaper under a box full of rabbit shit type of apartment, you know what I mean? There's a lot of environmental storytelling in the game, which I appreciate. Like, for instance, when you break into Miller's apartment, we find out a lot about Miller. Like, he's like 60 years old and still thinks he can box, and I got news for you, pal. No one believes you hit that bag, because I'm only 40, and I have arthritis in my shoulder I used to jab with, you know? And you know what? He doesn't hit that bag, because it's a secret entrance to the place where he keeps his porn. Good job, Eidos! Then you find out that Miller likes man pussy, which, you know. You also find out that he's a power top because look at his boyfriend, you know. That's a sub-bottom if I ever saw one. They also have a kid, so, you know, I guess the Christians were right, you know. Little kids growing up with two dads is better than Jesus. He never even met his fucking dad. The texture resolution is high when it should be, low in places where you can't see them, but if you put the game on ultra settings, and you don't have a supercomputer capable of calculating what happens when a kitten enters the event horizon of a black hole, then you're not running this shit above 45 frames per second. Or maybe my rig is just a piece of shit. There's actually a reason I don't include performance in my reviews, because no matter how good my computer is, it never seems to be enough to run a game at 1440p with medium settings and maintain a 60 FPS. So take what I'm saying here with a grain of salt. I'm apparently really bad with computers even though I spent my entire goddamn adult life fixing them. The UI can be confusing as fuck, and I'm just speaking from a pure navigation aspect. Like, am I the only one that was constantly going to the wrong stations because the station icons are too similar to the map icons and they're the same fucking color too? Seriously, I can't be the only one that had to watch a minute-long loading screen only to realize that fuck, I'm in the wrong place. And watch another loading screen. Where the graphics don't hold up is places like this. What I think you're seeing here is a character model whose bones have completely lost their mooring in reality and have decided to blanket the world in darkness. It's it's kind of hard to walk around when shit like this is happening. You know what I mean? There's also other amusing glitches like this here, bitches. Then you have less amusing bugs like crashes. Crashes don't have a single redeeming quality that I can think of. You know, like at least you can laugh at visual bugs. But I can't think of a single redeeming quality for a crash. They're like the lawyer of bugs. Sorry, I honestly don't know why I'm going so raw on lawyers in this video. I mean, I don't hate lawyers. Everyone has the right to exist and live their lives the way they want. In fact, my best friend's a lawyer. Okay, so you know, I can't hate them. The animations, at least in conversations, are animated. Yeah, that's the perfect word for it. They cross this line from human at times with conversations like this MacLeod combo, and whoever the hell this chick is, to just plain fucking weird like this one with the forensics guy.
Adam, I'll let you know when I find something.
You do that.
Take it easy.
There's also this issue on exclusive full screen where the frame buffer gets mixed up and will show you a frame that it played seconds ago, like a penis being spliced into a Disney movie. You can fix this by turning off exclusive full screen. The issue with this is that you'll no longer have the option to use a frame limiter. Though, if you use the VSync option in your video card software, this seems to negate the issue with screen tearing while keeping your frame rate high. While the game may not run well out of the box, there are a few changes you can make that will increase the frame rate slightly. First, turn off VSync and use a frame limiter. I've also heard good things about using DirectX 11, though my testing didn't really show much of an improvement. The reason I'm talking about this so much is because the game looks really great, but the frame rate, especially when you're in the city, dips down into the low 40s and sometimes below that. If you're used to playing on a console, you're not terribly worried about this, but whenever my frame rate drops below 50, it feels noticeably slower to me, especially when the frame rate dips and climbs in the middle of a firefight. It makes it very hard to aim when the speed of your mouse varies so drastically. The architectural design of some of these areas in the city are just fantastic. My favorite area being the courtyard just outside the Palisade offices. There's a tree growing out of the middle, holding up a giant stone block with their corporate logo blazed on the front of it. And just outside the courtyard is this unique looking coffee shop and this tall red building which looks exactly like a building out of European architecture, which lends a bit of believability to the location where the game takes place. The design of the city is incredible. It blends the traditional and historic designs alongside a modern, blocky, digitized version of architecture, as if the buildings weren't so much constructed as much as they were printed out and airdropped in. Then there's the billboards and advertisements, like this one especially caught my eye. The design of each area is not only impressive, but insanely detailed, down to an almost macro level. The density of which props populate even areas that aren't even a focus of any mission. You know, junction points between branching paths. Garages also have this level of detail where you can almost tell the exact type of person who rents it based on what's populated inside. It's another layer of visual storytelling comes from the artwork in the game, and I don't mean the character models, which often stride the line between good and uncanny, but I mean the actual artwork that you find in people's homes and museums inside the game. There's this very polished sheen to everything, made with reflective metals, and things that are supposed to be real, like animal heads, are constructed out of geometric shapes that distort the form. So I guess what I'm saying is, the graphics are an uneven experience. Are you getting tired of hearing me say that yet? The story for Mankind Divided is kind of strange to talk about. It's on its face, it should be very interesting, right? You've got stories of segregation, human rights, terrorism, and the Illuminati all working together and pulling various strings on various puppets. It's all woven together pretty nicely. And here's the thing. If you play through the main story all at once, you'll probably have a better experience than I did, because I foolishly decided to do the side content. The game has a glut of side content, all of which opens up near the beginning of the game after the tutorial. You get access to these missions either by stumbling onto the mystery during one of your many breaking and enterings, or through chatting with people you're working for. What happened to me is that as soon as the tutorial ended, I went out trying to do all these side quests, and I managed to finish quite a few of them, but I had major problems with one or two of them due to not having the right augs, or because I wasn't thinking outside the box enough to solve a problem. which is not the game's fault per se. I just needed to talk about it because the signposting for this mission had me completely rudderless without a clue as to what was going to happen next. Let's talk about quest design for a moment. A lot of the side missions you get in-game happen when you do a little breaking and entering, like I said before. In Jensen's apartment complex, there's an apartment where some drug dealers are holed up. They're dealing this exciting new drug called neon, which makes you see colors, man. It's some sort of hallucinogenic. Now, there'll be some spoilers here, so skip to the next chapter if you don't want your virgin ears to have their cherry popped. What happens is you find a big pile of drugs and a data pad that leads you to the next location. And eventually you'll follow this breadcrumb trail to the club. The club is only accessible via a keycard, which means you can't hack the door to get inside, which really sucks because my Jensen specialized in hacking just so I wouldn't have to deal with this exact kind of shit. So more often than not, even in the main story, Jensen is locked out of certain places where his hacking skill is useless simply because the game wants you to follow this linear path for a little while, shutting down the usefulness of certain skills in order to force the player to diversify or find another way around the problem. I agree to a point with this sort of design, but because of this I was effectively left without a way into the place because I had no praxis points to invest in skills I thought I needed to continue. Here's the goddamn issue I have with this specific quest design. There's a red herring in this area. In fact, it's a really big-ass red herring. It's this sewer grate below you. See, the first thing I saw, literally when I looked at this door and saw that there was no way to hack it, was this sewer grate, right? Now, I could have blown open the door with explosives, but I didn't really think about that, and I didn't want to go in loud and heavy. I'm a stealth guy, right? So I figured, okay, this sewer grate is right next to the door. And the game's been training me this whole time to know that the entrance into the place is going to be near the door. So the first place I went to is this sewer grate. And there's no way in through the sewer grate. It actually takes you to an entirely different area on the other side of this wall in another place, almost on the other side of the fucking map. So you sit there and you fuck around in this place for an hour and you don't find the thing you need. And then you get frustrated. That's what I mean by a red herring, right? It is intentionally almost fooling you into believing this is the way you need to go. At this point, I was pissed because this wasn't the first time that this mission had done this to me. I mean, I had a lot of trouble with this goddamn mission, man. I couldn't tell you why. I mean, when I went eventually to go look up a tutorial on what the fuck's going on with this mission just so I could write this video, I thought to myself, like, goddamn, this actually seems pretty logical. I guess I could have done this if I just had half a fucking brain to think about it. But the red herring was the thing that really pissed me off because this game does that a lot. It's like, you'll think like, okay, if I go in here, I'm very likely going to be able to sneak back way into this place. And there's never an instance where you're having an unreasonable expectation. It's usually pretty reasonable, only for you to find out that this doesn't go anywhere near the thing you're trying to get into. God damn, it's frustrating. I dumped the mission and went to do something else because those red herrings are super obvious and they draw your attention away from anything else, including the weak wall you could use to enter the club. The thing is, there's another way to do this, which is a bit obtuse, since you likely never used this method to complete a mission before now, and it wouldn't be terribly obvious for you to do it. In one of your many break-ins, you'll find an apartment that threatens to call the cops on you. If you hack the console, you can make the smart home recognize you as the owner. In the bathroom, you'll find a dead body. Now, from here, you're supposed to use the smart home tech to call the cleaning company that's associated with delivering the drugs. But I honestly missed that option because if you do that, they'll get rid of the body and leave you a pile of drugs with a key card to get into the club. That option is fantastic, and I really wish it was signposted a little more so that I would have done the mission that way, because all those red herrings, they really pissed me off and turned me off from doing any more of the side content. Like, from that point on, I just focused on the main story, which is a shame because the side content is very good at times. On my second playthrough, I did all of the side content, and the stuff I missed the first time around really changed my overall opinion of the game. Each quest has a narrative that further fleshes out the background of the story and the world in general. The standout is the quest to get paperwork to cross the fake blockade. If you do this mission, you'll be given a choice on whether you want to help someone do the right thing for a pair of augs who need to escape town, because they are basically illegal alien augs living outside of Golem City. If they're caught, they'll be sent back. But the whole quest has about 3 branches, And one of those branches ends with you having to make a decision about which augmented refugee gets the papers and which one's going back to Golem City. I really like this mission. Then there's a side quest from Chang, I can't remember his name, the IT guy. Anyway, this mission, like with all the others, branches out into multiple stages. This one is rather straightforward if you get the persuasion mod, but complicated if you didn't. The good thing is, however, if you do this mission, it makes a latter story mission a hell of a lot easier. The main story is pretty good, but I felt like after the opening, the pacing kind of slows to a crawl. The main story starts with a train station bombing and a cutscene. The impact of this is shown by the death of one person, but it really doesn't convey the depth of destruction on display here, which was likely massive. As a result, the media are pinning the responsibility for the bombing on an organization called ARC, which is thought to be an augmented terrorist organization. Now, here's where the shit gets a little hinky. Augmented people have to take a drug called neuropazine in order to not reject their implants because, the body's immune response. The drug is rare, especially with the closing of limb clinics, so if you find any, you could sell this shit for 1,000 credits a bottle. Now imagine how expensive this shit is to buy on the black market. Also, the implants can't be cheap. You have to be fairly well off or have some god-tier insurance to pay for this shit. Alright, think about it this way. I pay $300 a month for insurance that hasn't once paid for any of my medical treatment because of pre-existing conditions. Aren't all conditions pre-existing? The fuck does any of that insurance company shit even mean? Our health is determined by genetic markers, so technically we're born with pre-existing conditions. So that means that every goddamn condition we all have is also pre-existing, and none of this shit means anything. Anyway, moving on. So knowing how expensive these implants probably are, and knowing how expensive the treatments are, these augmented people either have to be really well off to afford all this shit, or they're getting this shit for free from the government. If it's the latter, then I bet they're really regretting that decision, seeing as how they're in a bit of an apartheid moment, or Jim Crow, or whatever you want to call it. Because the augs are kept separate from what they call naturals, people without augmentations. Keeping with my previous argument that poor people can't afford the augs, Ross's Game Dungeon had a great argument, in which he points out that the most common jobs in that income bracket are not all that important for them to do their job more efficiently or better. I actually disagree. If the game followed logic, then only the rich would be able to afford the highest end augments. And the persuasion mod would come in real handy during high-stakes negotiations. It'd basically be an arms race in the industry to provide the fastest acting, most accurate facial expression analyzers. An AUG would become an invaluable member of any sales force, for instance, because if you've ever seen my Glengarry Glen Ross video, which I highly recommend here for understanding this argument, you'll know that sales is mostly about manipulation. I'm not talking about people working at cash registers, I'm talking about salesmen, high-end business-to-business sales. If a guy had arm implants, I can think of many applications for this in the transportation and material moving occupations, which ranks as the 4th most common occupation in the US, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But only if those income groups could afford the augs. And I have a suggestion that kind of clears all of this up. Loans. Predatory loans, to be precise. Think about it. You have kids who go into debt for literally most of their lives pursuing a college degree. Some people opt out of college and go into technology and go to the certification route. And these certs can get very expensive since most of them have to be renewed every so often. A new AUG would be like the entry cost into a field of work, like a certification. But it's kind of encumbering and dehumanizing to have your fucking arms cut off and replaced. The whole idea is just, it's a little absurd, especially since in the opening cutscenes of the game, you see a bunch of natural soldiers outfitted with exosuits, which seems like a much better option for allowing you to jump higher and run faster than having your legs cut off and replaced. So in order for you to buy any of this shit, you have to suppress the part of your brain that says, hey, wait a minute. That's fucking stupid. And unfortunately, the game doesn't do a very good job at convincing you that this world is terribly believable from a pure premise point of view. Where the world building does excel is in interactions like this one. Scenes like this are happening all over the city. What you just saw, in case you don't speak that language and YouTube's compression fucked the video, is this cop just told this guy that this seat's for naturals only. and the aug moved from the seat with the cop hounding him and sat on the shittier aug bench not too far away. Now, I didn't notice a lot of this on my first playthrough, but the way the police harass augs and the way people interact with their environment, or the way people wander into shops and chat up the store owners, all of it contributes to this world being a believable facsimile of the real thing. The way I see immersion, it might be different from how you see it, but when I'm immersed in a game, I tend to be much more careful because I see my character as a real person. I mean, I know the difference, I'm not that far gone, but I worry about things. Like, I found myself worrying about Jensen's reputation throughout the game. Like, I worried about how people saw him. Whenever someone would comment on the bloodbath I left in my wake, I would think, damn, you know, I wish I could have gone back and done that a little better. Not because I wanted to do better, but because I wanted Jensen to do better. Does that make sense? It's a little crazy, I know. If you can get over some of these glaring issues, you'll be confronted by one of the slowest moving stories I've had the pleasure of playing in a while. In all of my previous attempts to play this game, I have always given up on it sometime before heading into Golem City, because I am forever getting burned out before getting there. Mostly because of the side mission issues, but also in the pacing department. First off, in order to justify the loss of all of your augments, the game blows you up, and you're supposed to go to a guy named Kohler who will fix you up. To do this, you must find a way around a gangster posing as police, sneak into Kohler's bookstore, which is overrun by Diwali gangsters, find a secret passage down to his Gimp dungeon, and get your augs fixed. Then you're given the option to deal with Kohler's problem with the Diwalis and get a neuroplasticity mod that will fix the issues with your systems overheating. When you're given this mission, you get another one to go talk to Sarah, or you go to the underground facility where your covert team works. You won't want to do anything though other than the Diwali mission, however, because you'll be thinking, well shit, you know, that neuroplasticity mod sounds handy. Let me get that as early as I can and get a good running start at this game. So you do that, and you'll get your first chance to use your persuasion mod. These conversations are pretty goddamn good. Without the persuasion mod, I honestly don't know how this would play out. The dialogue doesn't change in terms of the content of what you're saying, it changes on how you say the same thing. This is personified by the choices labeled as empathize, angry, turn the tables, and so on. These persuasion opportunities are well choreographed and kind of remind me of scenes from movies where you want something that someone's unwilling to give you, and it really feels like you're struggling to get someone else to see your point of view. Sometimes, like with one of the side missions, this persuasion will actually help you avoid having to do another mission before getting what you want, but most of the time it determines how satisfying the outcome of conversations will be. It's a great little system that, in a way, is kind of undercut by the augmentations, which seem to be required to have consistent outcomes, since the target will vacillate between 3 different types of behavior, depending on what you say and how you say it. Anyway, you'll have this conversation with this Diwali goon, grab your mod, and head out of the sewer. But the next time you talk to Kohler, he tells you that he has some shit to do and that he'll hit you up when he's ready to install the damn thing. Here's the thing. He doesn't install this shit until damn near the end of the game. So you wasted that time essentially on a mod you can't use until the game is almost over, and you've already locked in all your fucking skills. Then you head to Seraph and have a conversation with him on your TV, which doesn't really elucidate anything in the main story, because what Kohler uncovered is that there are some experimental augs in you that were lying dormant until he accidentally activated them. After all of this, you'll naturally do one of 2 things. Start exploring, which this game is fantastic for because there's so much density packed into what is a relatively small open world, or you might just head directly for the main story mission. Jensen is working for 2 different factions, a covert ops team and a hacker vigilante group. The vigilante group wants you to sneak in and put a bug into the servers that handle this sort of virtual calling network. You know, you get into a big seat and then you get transported to some virtual world where you talk to people virtually and yada yada yada, and you have an avatar and all that shit, right? This will come into play later in the game. And just like with just about everything in this game, you don't see the fruits of your labor until the mid-game. While the covert ops group wants you to hurry up and get back to work. The first place they send you is the train station that was bombed in the opening. This is a great level. Multiple routes in that wind around and back into each other, giving you ample opportunity to perfect stealth and enough cover to Rambo if you feel like killing some cops. That guy's gonna need to file a workers' comp claim. The The goal of this area is to steal a device that one of your forensics guys left behind. Now, normally when you finish a story mission, you're rewarded with a little new information about what the hell is going on, but nah, Deus Ex doesn't do that. You return this recording device to the forensics guy, and he goes on about how busy he is and all that shit.
Oh, it'll take hours to sift through the data, and I'm seeing Sonia later to apologize for any issues I may have caused with the state police. Plus, I do have other cases to work on too, Adam.
But it's like, you work for Miller, motherfucker, and Miller wants this train station shit figured out, so, you know, hop to it, motherfucker. But he doesn't. You don't find out how the bomb was made until damn near the end of the game. Again, like, the way these games usually go is something happens, then you investigate the thing, you find a lead, then you investigate the lead. But this game has you investigating multiple branches of a single topic in an out-of-order sequence, which contributed to me losing track of what the hell was going on. But the worst effect that this has on the game is that it makes the story drag because it doesn't really pick up until you start your investigation in the arc. Because every mission up to that point does not reveal anything useful. After you turn in the evidence recorder, you're told to see a psychologist because, in Miller's words, we went all psycho on some cops, even if you didn't kill anyone. At least it seems that way because I don't remember killing anyone, but there's a reason for this. The NPCs kill themselves all the goddamn time, usually with grenades. And when they're not killing themselves, you're doing it accidentally. Like that time I drug a face-down corpse into a puddle of water. So you have an absolutely worthless conversation with a side character of seemingly low worth, and head over to Vega, the hacker group contact. And she plays the unencrypted message that they recorded from the bug you planted. Turns out Miller is taking orders from someone. No shit. It's called his boss. This calls the motives of the section chief of this covert ops group into question, which is supposed to make you decide who you side with. I mean, the hacker group or the ops group, but the game has you doing missions for both, so it's kind of a moot point. Miller will call you on your cell phone or earbuds or brain phone or whatever the fuck Jensen uses to call people and asks you to meet him at a secret landing pad. He's sending you to Golem City. Golem City is a fairly large place with a lot of side areas and exploration. Your job is to find a contact here who can get you a meet and greet with the head of ARC. But it seems that the guy got himself and his brother-in-law arrested. So, you break into the makeshift cells the police have set up and you find out that he can't help you. But if you free his brother, and I think you know where I'm going with this, essentially you have to find another way in to see the big man upstairs, and this level's fucking awesome. Most of it has you traversing abandoned facilities, moving platforms to ascend higher and higher until you're within the ARC compound. Then the game has you stealthing your way around guards or killing your way up to the top. This area is so good because there's a lot of verticality to it and several ways through the level, and one that has you avoiding almost all of the fights. And each encounter has you dealing with multiple problems at once, like hacking a tripwire while a guard patrols and running through when the guard's back is turned, opening windows, crawling through vents, hacking consoles to shut down turrets and cameras. It allows you to make use of all your tools, and it's a great example of what this game does so well, but unfortunately does so little of. Remember that at this point, I'm about 8 to 9 hours into this game with all the side questing, and only the third real level, including the one in Dubai. I say level as a sort of analog to traditional structure of Deus Ex, where each area was a self-contained area, and sure, you might revisit places, but when you go on a mission, it's a level that you do it in usually. And not to mention that this game is only about 17 hours long, and I still don't know who is doing what and why. I understand that mysteries usually unravel slowly, but I don't even have one clue or a real lead to follow. I'm just waiting around for people to do their jobs. Like, sure, it's realistic, but is it fun? From this point on, the story gets better, but it's a slowly ramping sort of thing. The ARC camp is fun, you're confronted with another mystery, but still no answers. And from here, things start falling into place. And I'm not kidding when I say that at this point, the game is almost over. Like, I'm legitimately not kidding about that. There's about 4 more missions, 2 of which take place in places you've already likely been to. When people say they were disappointed by this game, I don't think they were talking about the gameplay, missions, or even the story being as slow as it is. It's the length of the story, and how it ends on the biggest fuck you that it possibly can end on. No answers, just more questions, a series of games that'll likely never end because we know how this ends. We've all played Deus Ex. We know essentially what happens in the end, so all of this build-up is to a climax that we already understand. So what's the point? So not only is this a prequel to a game that everyone has already played, but it also doesn't even tidy up any of the questions it raised, like, why frame the augs? Why make them outcasts? aren't some of these idiots tech people? I can't imagine these rich, powerful assholes don't have their hands in the augmentation pot. It doesn't make sense to completely tank a source of money. And if they don't, well then why the fuck not? Rich people like money. At least that's what they tell us. Maybe they really just like taking whole handfuls of the shit and shoving it up their ass to see how much they can get up there. I have no idea. All I know is that when this game ended, I felt sad. Not just because it had an unsatisfactory ending, but because the credit sequence made me wait like 20 fucking minutes as the names of about 500 people scrolled by slowly. Now, I'm about to go on a rant here, but these people in the games industry have some really big fucking heads on them. Let me ask you a question. How many digital effects artists do you know by name? Here's a follow-up question. How many digital effects artists do you follow from one title to the next? None? Really? I'm surprised. Actually, I'm not. How many actors and directors do you follow from movie to movie? I bet one list is larger than the other. You know why credits in movies make sense? Because sometimes you see an actor in a movie and you say, hey, that guy has some chops, you know, I wonder what his name is. And then you wait until you see the name of the character, maybe you check him out on IMDb, and you go and watch some other movies that the guy's been in. That's why the actors are listed first, because they're the thing that people see the most. You know, putting a face to a name is important. But you see, these game studios employ hundreds of people, all of which work on a small set of things that are needed for the game. You know, to complete and ship it. Someone might be responsible for modeling trash cans and boxes. Another guy might be responsible for doing muzzle flashes and projectile effects. A lot of things that the player notices but doesn't think, oh man, you know, I need to go see who modeled that cat in apartment 301 because this girl's got talent. Should those people get credit for their work? Fuck yeah, absolutely. Should I have to wait 20 minutes to shut down my fucking computer because you put in a mid-credit fucking cutscene teasing the next game? And you, for some inexplicable reason, won't let me skip the credits and instead want me to sit and watch as not only your core team's name fucks my eyeballs, but also the names of the kids that they popped out and even the independent contract studios you hired out to supplement your team. And then, oh my god, to top off this shit show, you slowly scroll by the names of the tech you used, even though you force me to watch those names when the fucking game starts each time before you let me exit the fucking game. Like, I have my name on a few games that ship from EA when I worked there. The first ship title was super important to me because I had been trying most of my life to get into a game studio. You know what I did? I booted up the game, watched the credits, saw my name, paused the screen and did a cum tribute, and then I moved on with my life. Mankind Divided is a pretty great game. One that is better, surprisingly enough, on a second playthrough, at least for me. Like, here's something I never knew about me. My wife said that she always watches the last episode of a show in a series that she likes because it drives her nuts not knowing what is going to happen in the end, right? I was enraged by this, especially when she told me that she does it with books as well. But then I played this game, and you know what? I think I get it now. There was so much delayed gratification that I rushed through this game, barely enjoyed it the first time through, and then thoroughly enjoyed it my second time through. I think, as much as I like to deny it, I might actually be the same way. The suspense was absolutely killing me. Now, I was gonna give this game a 7 out of 10 simply because of the visual bugs, the glitchy movement, the shit drag system, and that lackluster ending. Having played it through a second time, however, and dumping a bunch of hours into the Breach minigame, I give this game a solid 8 out of 10. If it weren't for the gameplay issues, this would be closer to a 9 for me. And understand, I'm an extremely picky asshole when it comes to stuff like this. I don't give out 9s all the time. Very few games rank that way for me, so when I say that I highly recommend this game, then you know I'm not bullshitting. And this has been a rant from Strat-Edgy, and now that you've heard it, go play some games. Hello everyone, I'm alive. Yeah, I'm still alive. I had a heart cath, was it 2 weeks ago? Or maybe 3 weeks ago now at this point, I don't know, time has sort of become a nebulous thing. And I couldn't use my wrist for a couple of days. And, but I'm all fine now. They, still don't know what the hell's wrong with me. We think we know what's wrong, so we're gonna try some treatments and then we'll know. But, I have a few people that I want to thank personally in this video. MacLeod, You know who you are. You are fucking amazing. This surgery cost $2,000 and you paid for half of that. So goddamn. I mean, you don't even know me that well, and out of the kindness of your heart, you decided to donate money, and I gotta say, dude, it touched me. It touched me in, not in my no-no place, but in my heart. So I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and thank you from my family as well. This meant a lot to us, so I really appreciate that. And to Doc, you also know who you are, you fucking beautiful bastard. You also donated, and with you two combined, the bill was so much more manageable to deal with. So I really appreciate that shit. And it's gonna make paying back my dad a hell of a lot easier. So really appreciate it, guys. And I appreciate all of the new patrons that came onto the channel as well. I'll be emailing you guys this week now that the video is done. I really appreciate this influx of new people and the fact that you guys decided to support me at a time when I really needed it. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone and all the longtime patron members. You guys are just fucking amazing. You're the best audience I think I could ever have asked for. You guys are amazing. So, just as a little teaser for the next video, I'm not exactly sure if I'm ever gonna go back to Outer Worlds, can I be honest? There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of demand for the DLCs of this game. I think everybody's just sort of burnt out on that game and don't want to see anything else about it. So I'm likely going to tackle Mass Effect Legendary Edition or Atom RPG. ATOM RPG. Hit me up in the comments below and let me know which one of these two games you want to see. I also had an idea to go through the whole Dishonored series, including the DLCs for it, and including redoing the first video that I did for Dishonored, because I don't know, that video is a little cringy. I kind of want to revisit it like I revisited the Outer Worlds. So those three games, Mass Effect Legendary Edition, Atom RPG, and the Dishonored series, which of those three would you guys like to see next? And yeah, so anyway, love you, and bye.
This morning, your